Hey everybody, welcome to the Academy Consulting Podcast. My name is Erica.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are talking all about something that I think everyone struggles with.
Peace. Peace.
Yo. That's what I used to do. That would be like my thing with my brother. Instead of saying hello or goodbye, we'd be like, peace.
Really? With my boys, as they were little growing up, like when they leave or whatever, we'd say to each other as low as we could do it, peace. Like that. I don't know why.
Interesting.
We just always say peace.
So have you led a pretty peaceful life?
I don't think so. I don't know. Like, peace is our subject for the month. And I have to confess that even though I'm teaching about it, I'm not naturally like the most peaceful person. That's why I think it's really good to talk about it, though, because even though I'm not naturally like great at being peaceful, I think I've learned some things about it over the year that have helped me a ton.
Well, maybe we should start by defining, like, what does it even mean to be peaceful? Like,
Okay.
at least for you. I'm guessing everyone's answer to this might sound or look a little differently. Like, what does it mean to live a peaceful life or to live in peace? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I don't know. Live in peace, like that kind of means like you're peaceful all the time, and that might be like more than I could shoot for. I mean, there's periods or moments of peace, like on the couch with a bowl of ice cream is like super peaceful. You have a blanket, and like that's just amazing for like the 10 minutes it takes me to eat a bowl of ice cream.
Uh-huh.
So there's moments of peace, and there's even extended periods of it. But I don't know that I live a lifestyle choice of peace. I wish I did.
Yeah, I think peace for me is a mindset. It's a state of being. It's a state of mind versus, I get what you say, like, I agree, like sitting in front of the fire, like, with a glass of wine or something is really a peaceful
Yeah, or at the lake,
experience.
it's like it's all good.
Yeah.
Like those moments in life where it's like all good, and like, you can do that like an hour at a time or a day at a time, or maybe even for a vacation. Like it's just all good and it feels great. That's what feels like the best to me.
The peace.
That's
So
like peace.
I would say that is circumstantial peace.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the key is to find the peace within. That
Yeah.
is that for me. That's
Exactly.
That's how you live a life of peace. But
Exactly. So even though your circumstances aren't perfectly the best or peaceful, you are feeling it inside nonetheless.
correct.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yes.
So what I taught about them this month in the academy was things that God says about having peace. Like God promises us peace. God says peace is a gift to us. He wants us to feel peace. He doesn't want us to feel turmoil. These are all things that God says in the Bible about peace for us. And then he even teaches us how to prepare to get peace.
Okay.
Okay, and I talked about a few different ones, and I want to just mention them today and see what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things it says in the Bible about peace is that if we want to experience peace, we have to pray. Prayer helps you experience peace, says God. How do you feel about that? Does that true for you? Do you struggle with it? Where you at?
Well, prayer is like the number one thing in my life, I think. I think it's one thing that I've learned to be good at for me anyway. But my prayers aren't like normal prayers. Like I don't pray like God please help me or God please help this person necessarily. My prayers are mostly gratitude and prayers more of like search me, oh God, and point out anything not pleasing, those kind of prayers. And for those who are sick, Lord, heal them and let them feel you. I'm not super specific in them always, but they always are gratitude, and they're always about me trying to be the most like Jesus as I can, and asking God to point that out in the ways that I'm not.
Well, you kind of put two things in one, and it's amazing because those things are actually in the same verse in the Bible. It says, pray to God and thank Him. Pray and thank, pray and thank. And that's what you just mentioned with gratitude. Like gratitude is sort of like thanksgiving. And so when you pray, you express lots of gratitude to God. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And that helps you feel peaceful?
Yes.
Why do you think?
Because focusing on gratitude for me keeps me grounded. It keeps me present in my present circumstances. And a lot of times for me over the years, my own self and my own image of my own self has been a struggle for me, especially being a woman in ministry and a wife and a mother and all of the things. It's hard to measure up sometimes when I look at the world. And so I stopped looking at the world some time ago and started looking at God, and I find God within. and looking to him for what is the truth about me. And in my gratitude practice, I ask him sometimes to help me see the good in me. Because when I am healthy, it makes my kids healthy, and it makes me better for everyone else around me, because we're serving everyone in our job all the time.
Yeah.
That's how I stay grounded. I rely on God to counsel me, to serve me, to build me up. And that's my prayer practice, among other things. But primarily, that's a big aspect of how I pray.
Okay. For me, it's maybe just a little bit different. Oftentimes my prayers are in the midst of not feeling peaceful. Like maybe you're frustrated about something or stressed out or like whatever it may be. And I'll just pray and ask God to like give me peace. Like help me out here, God. Help me deal with this. Help me not to be crabby. Like whatever. Yeah. And he really answers those prayers. That's like a golden prayer to me. Like if I'm feeling frustrated, to ask God, please help me feel peaceful. It makes a difference for me all the time. And I think just opening up that communication with him, like if you're kind of doing your own thing and keeping God out, he lets you. He doesn't force himself in. Mm-hmm. But I think prayer is just like a way of inviting him in. It's like, hey, God, I'm struggling here, da-da-da. And then he gets more involved in your life. You got to ask for it.
Well, and I think also like prayer is sort of, another way to put it, is a way we kind of check ourselves. Like if you're in a bad mood or you're having a bad day, sometimes you're like, okay, God, help me to find peace. But it's also a way to just be like, check yourself and be in your present moment and bring God into it. Gives you eyes to see it a little differently, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the classic thing. The world always tells you to focus more on yourself, focus more on yourself, focus more on yourself. It's all about you. It's all about you. You deserve it. You earned it. Whatever. That's not at all what God says. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't work. It works to sell stuff. Yeah. And that's why people do it. It works to sell stuff, but it doesn't work to bring you peace. Focusing on what God says and focusing on caring for other people, then you feel just better. It's like a little baby miracle. You just feel better.
Yes, that's true.
I think he's just wired us that way. So like when you say that's how you pray, I maybe pray a little bit differently, but we're both talking to God in our own way, which I think God's cool with. I'm different than you. We don't got to be the same. You don't got to be like us. You just do it your way.
Yeah, and if you don't have a prayer practice, what I always tell mostly our clients that are new to faith or just sort of discovering it and trying to figure out what it is I always say, just like you said, just ask. Like, God, help me to see you. Help me to know you're real. Show me who you are. And you just start talking to him like he's a friend. You got something on your mind? Ask him. Because he does show up. May not be the way you're expecting him to, but he will. Yeah.
And then the other part of that, as we talked about prayer, was thanks. And for me, that's just part of it, and that's how I start my prayers, and it just gets me in the right mindset. And I've said in other videos where, like, I'll just start thanking God for whatever comes to mind. If I'm nice and warm in my house, I'll say thanks for a nice warm house. If I'm sitting on a piece of furniture that's comfortable, like, not everyone has comfortable furniture. Not everyone slept in a really nice bed last night. Not everyone got a hot shower this morning. Not everyone has a refrigerator and a cabinet full of all sorts of food that I eat too much of, right? Like, there's a ton of stuff to be thankful for. And as you start thanking God, you realize there's even more.
Again, gratitude makes everything different.
Yeah, it's just and you start seeing things differently, right? Like, all of a sudden, like, oh, I had this great conversation with my friend yesterday. Thanks, God. That was awesome. You just got to get in the habit of it and kind of the place in your mind where you're thinking about gratitude, and you start realizing just more and more. Maybe you have something fun coming up this weekend. It's like, oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to go do this weekend, And you just thank God for it now. Thanks, God. Thanks, I have this to look forward to, and I know I'm going to have a blast at the party or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's this saying, and I think it's super true. The more thankful you are, the more you have to be thankful for. Yeah. It seems a little bit weird, but I think it's true when you are conscious of the way your life is blessed and all of the good that you have. You just keep finding more and more.
Here's a simple thing. Tonight for dinner, we're making steak and baked potatoes and frozen peas. I love all three of those things. And you know how many people in the world never get to have steak and potatoes and frozen peas? So yeah, it's normal. We have meat and vegetables and junk all the time. A lot of people don't. And I don't let that pass me. I'm grateful for what's on my plate tonight. And I think all of us really should be.
Yeah. So peace starts with prayer.
Prayer and thanks. They go together.
Being thankful.
Thanks and prayer go together. Mm-hmm. Another thing that's a bit harder probably for most people is trust. God expects us to trust him. He says when we trust him, he keeps us in perfect peace. but we have to trust him first. How do you feel about that? Trusting God.
Well, it's interesting.
It's not church now, so.
Yeah. It's interesting because God is, I don't want to say has proven it to me, because he doesn't need to prove anything to me, but I have known without a doubt that I can trust God because of the way that he has shown up for me in the hardest times of my life. So I've learned how to trust him, but again, it's been a practice, and it's been something very intentional for me, and it I think it all boils down to I trust him that no matter what happens, he's walking beside me through whatever journey I'm on. No matter what happens, I will be able to see the good, and no matter what happens, I will be okay. But sometimes people think of trust as everything's going to be great all the time. And I think you have to really see that as see the difference in that.
So can you then trust God when everything isn't great all around you?
Absolutely.
That
is when you learn how to trust him.
The children are naughty. The checkbook is empty. Your boss is frustrating you.
Yes. It's. I think I just actually had this conversation with a client the other day. I said they were not sure if they trusted God. They weren't sure, and I think the sad but true thing for most people is we learn to trust God when we have nowhere else to go, when we are at our very lowest of low, when we're looking around and we don't know which direction to turn. And he's normally what comes into people's minds.
Yeah, in the moment of desperation when you can't fix it yourself.
Yeah.
Especially for us guys, we just think we can fix things, right? Like a lot of times women will say, quit telling me how to fix it. I just want you to listen, right?
Yeah.
We try to fix everything, and in life you can't always. And there's just moments when you can't. It's like, okay, now I'm desperate enough to ask God for help, and then he helps, and your trust just grows.
Well, and some people would say, I think very human nature is to say trust is earned, because as humans, it is for us. When you first meet someone, you don't trust them right away. They have to show up for you. They have to prove to you that you can trust them. And so if you're wavering, if you're not sure if you can trust God, just see. Just like you do with a human, because he will show up and he will show you.
Well, my thing is to be like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
If you try trusting God more, what could you possibly lose? Maybe you go to church on a few Sundays and you wasted an hour? That's what could you lose by trusting God? I think a really important thing to mention, and this isn't super squeaky church clean, is you can sometimes not understand God or like what you think God is doing, yet you can still trust him. It happens for me.
Yeah, I think that is super true. Can you repeat that?
There are times when you may not understand God, or you might not even like what you think God is doing, but you can still trust him. God is God. I'm not going to be able to understand everything he does. I can't do calculus either, or a million other things. He's God. If I could totally understand him, I'd be God. So you're not ever going to totally understand God. And there's things that are happening in the world that, maybe are in God's control, or why isn't he fixing it, or whatever. There's just going to be some of those questions. There just is, because life is just messy. So no, I don't always trust God, and I don't always like what I see. Why is there world hunger? I don't like it. I wish it was different. There's things like that. Yet I still trust God. Mm-hmm. And there's one right there. People don't trust God. They'll say, why is there world hungry? Why are people suffering? Well, the world produces enough food every year to feed everyone in the world. There's literally enough food produced to feed everyone, except some people hoard it or try to sell it for a lot of money or whatever. But the earth does sustain all of its people. So we actually should trust God for food, because he's provided it. It grows naturally every single year.
Well, and I there's another thing that is God made us.
Yeah.
But we could stop world hunger if we wanted to.
Right.
That's just true.
Distribute the food that he's already growing all over the world properly.
Right, and I think
don't throw food away,
Another realization is, and this is a hard one, and I'm just gonna say it, none of us are making it out here alive. I say that because I meet a lot of people that are mad at God or think that they can't trust God because someone close to them has died.
Yeah, I counseled a woman once many years ago. And she was really mad at God. She didn't know if she wanted any relationship with God anymore because her father had passed away. And I understand that. I've lost both of my parents. I understand pain and loss. However, her father was 80. everybody dies. Everybody dies. And you never want to lose anyone. You love the people that are close to you. You wish they would never die. But for someone to have like her father had a super healthy life, great life, all the way until 80 when he suddenly died, that's an amazing life. I don't know why you'd be mad at God for someone dying at 80. I mean, that's just what happens. Mm-hmm. No one's out there telling you otherwise. Like, do this trick and you can live to be 200.
But I don't think 80's the problem. I think, death of a child or death of a spouse, those
right.
that have more like questions behind them, like
sure.
why God?
Sure, but I'm saying people even have questions when it's your 80-year-old that
yes.
you love very much.
Yeah.
But, as we get older, 80 is a nice, good, long life.
Mm-hmm.
But people still are frustrated with God. And then, of course, if it's a younger person or an accident of some sort, and you just wonder, God, why?
Mm-hmm. And sometimes those whys, I don't know that we're ever going to know the answers this side of heaven.
No.
I think someday we will, absolutely. And that's where part of the trust comes in. Faith is believing in something that you can't necessarily see or touch or feel every single day. And there are seasons where it does seem sometimes that God is silent. And it's in that silence that you continue to trust and persevere. And
that's where the trust comes in, is in the silence or in the confusion or
yeah.
in the struggle. Because when everything's going great and God seems to be answering every prayer perfectly, it's not really that hard to trust. It's easy to trust. But when things aren't going great, when you're hurting, when you're struggling, you say, God, I still trust. I got a bunch of questions. I've been around for a long time. I got a bunch of questions for God of things I don't understand. I just don't.
Yeah.
Why did he do it this way? Why does he do it that way? But I trust him enough that I think he'll answer me in heaven. I think I will get an answer someday. It's not my day today. That's all.
And ask him. Ask him yourself, and he will show you in some way, somehow. That's what I say. Yeah. Okay, so trust, pray, and be thankful.
And then one final one, obedience. God says we're supposed to obey. And obey is a dirty 4-letter word for a lot of people.
Why?
Because no one wants to. You're told to obey when you're a little kid, and you want to grow up and not have to obey anyone anymore. Obey is not what every adult aspires to. Mm-hmm. But I think when we obey God, life just gets better. And we already do obey him in a lot of ways. We said it in the lesson. We love the people that are close to us. We serve them. We take care of them. We work hard. We do all sorts of things where we're obeying God. I think it's just in the periphery, the outer stuff, where it's like, is this right or wrong? Is it okay if I do this or not okay if I do it? And then we feel guilty and far from God when we don't even really know what we're supposed to be obeying or not anyway.
Yeah, I think it always boils down to me to this one thing, and I think it's really simple, is that God looks at your heart. And sometimes our actions, we mess up. We're not perfect. And it's like God looks at our hearts. And the reason why there's let's say the 10 Commandments, for example, or these rules that God has set in place, is because he wants to protect our hearts, because he knows what hurts us and what doesn't hurt us. And I think that has always helped me to be, not think of it so much as rules, but think of it as God, as my father, protecting me from getting hurt.
Yeah, just like a human parent, right? Like when you put rules in place for your kids, it's to help them be happier, healthier, safer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And God's the ultimate parent, so he's doing the same thing. God sees himself like our parent. So when you say God gives you rules or whatever to keep you safe, that's just like we do as parents, right? Like you want to keep your kids safe. You want to help your kids be happy. And so sometimes you give them rules or parameters to help them be happier or safer, successful, or whatever it may be. That's what God does for us. That's why God asks us to be obedient, because he knows what's good for us. He knows what's best for us.
Yes. And if you want a couple practical tips to help you get through the holiday season, to find peace this holiday season, the first is, remember your why. Why is it that you're actually celebrating? Why go through all of this work? Be present. Be present in every moment and just enjoy the people around you, even the crazy ones that drive you absolutely nuts. Try to enjoy them even if they are a little nuts, I say
wrap up there, because if you can do that, you're going to experience peace, right?
Yeah.
Like to be able to enjoy others, that's
and there's one thing that we are offering right now. We are offering one free counseling session. So if you are having trouble this holiday season, go to our website, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you out.